The royal family has just shared an important update that has the whole nation worried. Prince William, the future king and a popular figure in modern royalty, is facing personal news that has surprised both the palace and the public. Sources close to Kensington Palace say this update involves William's health, his duties, and the immense pressure he is under. What exactly happened to the prince?
Finally tonight, a story about a British man who recently had a brush with royalty, and he nearly didn't realize it was happening. But as our Rahema Ellis explains, he had a very good excuse.
How will this news affect the royal family's future? The tragedy that stopped Britain. The evening storm over England felt strange, as if nature were in a bad mood. The winds howled through the fields, and thunder cracked loudly in the sky. Up at Windsor, the royals were having dinner. The sound of silverware clinked softly, and candles flickered on the old walls, covering everything in a heavy tradition. At 6:47 p.m., everything changed. High above the Lake District, William's helicopter showed on the radar, then disappeared. The pilot's last message cut off suddenly, interrupted by a thunderclap. People on the ground said the clouds lit up like fire, with streaks of light flashing before everything fell silent. At Windsor, an aide rushed into the dining room looking pale. He whispered urgently to a suite, and soon the room erupted in whispers. "Sire," came a trembling voice, "we've lost him." Charles paused, his face turning white as he steadied himself on the table. He mouthed, "Not my boy. Not again." The air grew heavy, and time felt like it had stopped. Protocol no longer mattered. Phones blared orders, messengers dashed down corridors, and helicopters took off amidst the storm. As night fell, search crews battled the rain and lightning while trying to find the wreckage near Ullswater. Twisted metal lay scattered, and the storm showed no signs of letting up, as if nature shared in the sorrow. Meanwhile, Catherine received the news in her sitting room. It took a moment for it to sink in. When it did, her heart-wrenching cry broke the air, silencing the chilly room. She was not just a duchess in that moment, but a mother and wife in deep anguish. Staff members froze, with one dropping her phone as she muttered a prayer. Outside, news spread quickly as reporters clamored for updates, interrupting regular programming. By 8 p.m., the country was captivated. Crowds gathered at Buckingham Palace, holding umbrellas and candles, their faces carved with worry. For a nation still healing from Princess Diana's tragic death, this felt like reopening an old wound. A convoy sped towards London, sirens blaring through the rain. Inside, Catherine remained still, hands clasped tightly, repeating William's name softly as if it were a spell. When they arrived at the hospital, flashes from cameras surrounded them, but Catherine stepped out drenched, her face set in a mask of determination. The world saw not a princess, but a woman on the brink of breaking down. In the emergency ward, chaos reigned. Doctors shouted orders while machines beeped incessantly. The smell of antiseptic mingled with the tension. When Catherine finally reached William, he was alive but in critical condition. His face was pale, and wires connected him to machines. She knelt by his side, gripping his hand tightly, pleading, "Stay." Charles arrived soon after, looking burdened and clutching a rosary. His power meant nothing here. He looked devastated. The hours dragged on while the storm raged outside, and every beep of the monitor felt like a struggle between life and death. Catherine refused to leave, her gaze fixed on William's face, her fingers intertwined with his. Time stretched endlessly. Around 2 a.m., whispers started circulating among the doctors. Something seemed off about the crash site. They discreetly shared information, noting that the wreckage didn't match typical crash patterns. Also, some communications were missing. The palace kept quiet, urging calm. As dawn neared, questions began to surface. Was it just an accident in the storm, or was there something more sinister at play? As the sun rose, Catherine remained vigil by William's side, her eyes tired but unyielding. Outside, the atmosphere around Windsor was eerily quiet. Flags hung limply in the chilly breeze, and the gates were filled with flowers and notes. The nation held its breath, waiting for news that hung in the balance. That night changed everything, not just for the royal family, but for the entire country. In the midst of the storm, the polished image of the royal family cracked, revealing only fear, love, and a haunting unasked question. What happens when the facade of royalty slips away and dread takes its place? The day the crown trembled. The morning started with alarming news. Prince of Wales in critical condition after helicopter crash in Cumbria. This shocking headline spread quickly through every news outlet. In London, life came to a standstill. Streets emptied as people gathered with candles, their faces wet from the rain. Flowers began to pile up at Buckingham Palace gates. Wet petals stood firm against the downpour, a sign of hope. Cameras zoomed in on the wreckage and the hospital where the prince was taken. News anchors struggled to hold back emotions as they reported the situation. World leaders shared their thoughts and prayers, and the hashtag #PrayForWilliam was everywhere on social media. For many, this felt like a return to 1997 when Princess Diana's tragic death had deeply affected the nation. Meanwhile, Catherine sat close to the window at St. Mary's Hospital, her face pale against the gray sky. Outside, thousands waited in the rain, holding signs that read, "Hang on, Wills." She whispered, "You will," but her eyes were filled with worry. As hope grew, whispers within the palace turned darker. Someone suggested that the crash might have been caused by more than just an accident. A classified report mentioned possible issues with the helicopter's navigation systems. Princess Anne noticed this and demanded answers. Birds don't disappear from radar. Something was clearly wrong. Hours passed and confirmation came. The navigation system had failed. There were questions about whether this was an inside job. King Charles received the report and anxiously shut the file, deciding to keep it quiet. However, secrets have a way of coming out. Harry received the same alarming news. It reminded him of past trauma. After a moment, he turned to Meghan and said, "It's coming back around." The next morning, more headlines emerged. Crown crash investigation. Could it be foul play? The palace tried to calm the situation. They urged everyone to keep their heads. But uncertainty lingered, turning tragedy into speculation. At Buckingham Palace, tensions rose. Some wanted to share information, while others insisted on keeping it secret. Charles remained quiet, overwhelmed by the pressure. Anne confronted him. "You can't hide the truth, Charles." He replied, his eyes watering. "Do you think I don't know? I've buried enough family." The palace, once a symbol of stability, now felt uneasy. Each whisper and pause seemed full of suspicion. At St. Mary's, Catherine refused to leave William's side. She held his hand, whispering prayers. Suddenly, she sensed movement. His fingers twitched. Monitors blinked momentarily. The doctor stopped in his tracks. William's eyes fluttered open, looking for her. Catherine gasped, tears streaming down her face. "You're not home yet," she said, gently touching his brow. "But you will be." William didn't speak, but a single tear rolled down his cheek, clear and hopeful. That meant he remembered. He was still here. News spread quickly. Church bells rang, and crowds gathered outside Buckingham Palace, flags waving. Cheers and tears mixed as people celebrated, chanting, "He's awake." For a moment, the shaken royal family felt united again. Later that night, Harry entered the hospital quietly. No cameras or fanfare followed him. He approached the room, where Catherine gave him a subtle nod. William was resting, but seemed more at peace. Harry placed his hand on William's shoulder. For the first time in years, their distance felt smaller. Though unspoken, a sense of forgiveness lingered between them. The next morning, the family gathered together. Old tensions and strained smiles faded as they focused on one truth. William was breathing. The crown in the shadows. A miracle and a warning. The morning brought hard news. Prince of Wales critical after a helicopter accident in Cumbria. There was no softening the blow. The message hit everyone at once, disrupting the quiet of homes everywhere. In London, life came to a halt. Streets emptied as people gathered with signs and lit candles, rain mixing with tears. Flowers appeared at Buckingham Palace, their colors muted but still bright against the gloomy weather. News reports played footage of the wreckage and the hospital's exterior, and news anchors struggled to maintain their composure as they shared updates. Around the world, leaders sent their thoughts and messages, flooding social media with #ForWilliam. For many, it felt like a return to 1997, when Princess Diana died, invoking prayers for William once more. At St. Mary's Hospital, Catherine stood by, her face pale and worried. Outside, thousands held signs saying, "Fight on," and "Wills." With lips moving silently, she whispered, "You will," her eyes a mix of hope and fear. But while people prayed for William, rumors swirled at the palace. An initial report said there were flight glitches. Anne, who caught wind of the whispers, demanded answers. "Birds don't just fail," she said. "Something is wrong." As hours passed, officials confirmed the distressing news. There had been issues with the navigation system. Whether due to negligence or something else was still unclear. Charles received the report in his office and felt the weight of threats to their reputation. He decided, "We need to keep this quiet." Harry received a call that played on old wounds. He turned to Meghan and said, "It's happening again." The morning news was filled with headlines asking whether there was foul play. The palace denied anything unusual. Still, speculation grew, with questions about the situation multiplying. At Buckingham Palace, the atmosphere was tense. Doctors wanted complete transparency, while others insisted on keeping it under wraps. Charles remained silent as pressure mounted to keep everything contained. Anne confronted him. "You can't hide the truth forever." She turned away, emotional. "I know more than you think." Public support for William continued to swell outside St. Mary's. Catherine stayed put, fingers intertwined with his. A slight twitch under her touch shifted everything. Monitors beeped faster, and the doctor stopped, sensing something. William's eyes opened slightly, and he seemed shaky but aware. Catherine gasped, tears flowing. "Not yet home," she whispered, gently touching his forehead. "But soon." William didn't speak, but could show he was with her. News spread quickly. People outside Buckingham Palace rejoiced as bells rang. Crowds gathered to learn that William was awake. The royal family's unity faced challenges, but a sense of togetherness remained. Later that night, Harry came to the hospital quietly, avoiding cameras. He approached Catherine, who nodded to him. William was resting, looking better. Harry laid a hand on his brother's shoulder, feeling the distance shrink between them. No words were exchanged, but a feeling of forgiveness lingered. The next day, the family gathered once again, closer than before. Old tensions began to fade, united by one crucial truth. William was breathing. The night truth knocked on Buckingham's door. That night in Buckingham, the air felt tense. Rain tapped against the windows, but inside the king's office, things were about to get serious. 4 people were in the room. Charles, Camilla, Anne, and the lead investigator holding a thick file containing the final report on the crash. A lamp cast long shadows over the wooden table, and the sealed envelope sat heavy, almost challenging someone to open it. When the seal broke and the pages turned slowly, the silence was thick. Then came the shocking news. The navigation system wasn't broken. Someone had tampered with it. An outside signal took control mid-flight, steering the plane off course just before it disappeared. It wasn't bad luck or a storm. It had been planned, cleanly executed, and it was deeply unsettling. Charles studied the report, taking his time. Finally, he spoke, breaking the silence. "So, it wasn't chance," he said, his voice cutting through the quiet. The investigator replied steadily but seriously, "No, sir. A signal. A warning." Anne clenched her fists. "From who?" she asked sharply. Silence filled the room. Even the lead investigator, after weeks of analyzing the evidence, had no answers. The report kept coming back to unknown, but one thing was clear. Someone was out there, using their power to threaten the throne. Charles snapped the file closed. "The crown endures," he murmured, watching the lamp's flickering light. "But it bleeds." His words echoed in the quiet. Power may seem strong, but it's vulnerable. Meanwhile, in a quiet hospital room, Catherine sat beside William, with machines quietly monitoring him. She held his hand, praying between breaths. Suddenly, she felt a slight movement. Monitors beeped. The doctor paused. Before anyone could speak, William's eyes fluttered open, fuzzy and worn, but alive, and met hers. Catherine cried, her tears warm. "Not home yet," she whispered, gently touching his brow. "But soon." William was silent, a tear sliding down his cheek, but he understood. He was clinging to hope. News spread quickly. Church bells rang through the night, and crowds gathered outside Buckingham Palace, flags waving, people crying and cheering. The news that William was waking up traveled around the world. It felt like a new heartbeat, a mix of hope and tension. In the hospital, Harry entered quietly, with no camera flashes or fanfare, just memories of the past that changed everything. Catherine glanced at him, giving a silent nod. William was resting, looking pale but relieved. Harry moved closer, placing his hand on William's shoulder, an old bond slowly reconnecting after years apart. It felt like a silent promise. At dawn, the family gathered, close together. Old grudges faded in the light of this moment. Whatever problems had existed before seemed small compared to one thing: William's recovery. Weeks passed, and William gained strength. The palace issued a message. "We are thankful for life and the love that guides us through dark times." They didn't mention sabotage or a specific name, but whispers in the palace suggested otherwise. Questions remained about hacking and the mysterious signals. The investigation deepened. For now, people across Britain lifted their spirits. But inside Buckingham, the atmosphere felt uneasy. The skies above the country had changed forever, and somewhere, the person responsible was still watching. Some say Britain will struggle to move on, but what really happened before Catherine's significant return? Let's delve into the night that changed everything for the royal family. The day Britain breathed again. The day Britain felt relief started with Catherine pushing William's wheelchair through the hospital doors. A crowd greeted them with cheers. William, looking pale, waved weakly while Catherine stayed calm, hiding her sleepless nights and fears of losing him. When someone asked how she felt, she said, "The crown has faced many storms. This one reminded us why we endure, because we face them together." Her words showed her strong understanding of resilience after their close call with tragedy. Later, the family quietly gathered in the palace chapel, feeling the weight of what they had almost lost. King Charles expressed his feelings by whispering to William, "I thought I'd lost you." This moment removed any formalities and highlighted their shared humanity. In the following weeks, life at Buckingham Palace returned to normal, but a new bond formed among them. One night, as Catherine looked at the city lights, she realized that the monarchy is not just about grandeur, but about survival and resilience. When spring arrived, the royal balcony once again became a symbol of unity, as crowds celebrated William's return. Together with Catherine and King Charles, they represented a family made stronger by adversity. As the nation cheered, it became clear that a modern monarchy is about connection and persistence. Catherine's journey from despair to hope showed that true miracles come not from titles, but from those who choose to rise again despite challenges.